Democrats defect on $15 minimum wage hike. Okay, so get the fuck out of my face. This would have worked if it was a $15 minimum wage. You guys don't understand anything until I explain it to you really, really goddamn slowly. Okay, the idea was to drum up support for a piece of legislation and exercise power. It was to say, hey, this is still one of our demands, and we are going to be a fucking thorn in your side until you do something about it. That was phase one. Then it was go on TV and talk about how criminal it was that all these people who had just lectured and lectured and lectured you about the pandemic and about how everybody's life is extremely valuable and we have a responsibility as citizens of this country to make sure that everybody's medical needs are taken care of, and it's about all of us and playing our role, and all that World War II kind of patriotism that you can laden that with to make your fucking argument. Okay, so it's all flimsy, and it all comes down to really what it all comes down to, guys. And this is how the left will never win. And even it rubs off on me. It's Jimmy Dore is such an annoying fucking prick that anything that came from his mouth was never going to work. He's so fucking antagonistic and just, for the most part, downright unlikable that nobody wanted to organize with him. And his name alone, and the fact that he has nothing but vitriol, and he loves the fact that everybody hates him for the way that he presents himself, besides his most dedicated fucking followers. He loves to be an antagonist. And even when, because Jimmy doesn't actually give a fuck if these things happen. So it's all about the antagonism. And that's why I think that Force the Vote was never able to take off. And that's why you see so many people who are just rabidly opposed to it, and they have no good reason to be. It's because they won't just come out and say, I fucking hate Jimmy, and that's why I won't support anything that's ever come out of his goddamn mouth.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a valid reason to be against Force the Vote, and I don't think that's what you're saying
Stupid
either.
As fuck to be opposed to it.
Yeah. But I do agree that his unnecessarily antagonistic nature, not just towards the Congress people themselves, who I think absolutely deserve the vitriol, but more towards some of his actual allies, or people that would be his allies if he let them be. Unnecessary vitriol towards those people, and that's what we're about to take a look at now. This caught my eye because this video is called "Breaking Point's Host Caught."
Welcome to a special edition of RBN Weekends. I'm your host for today. And by the way, some other RBN members might drop by. Rome might drop by. Nick might drop by. But I'm your starting host today. I'm CJ. You could call me J or CJ or Compton J, as I'm known on social media. Welcome to RBN Weekends. I like weekends better than Saturdays, so that's why it's RBN Weekends. Thought that was a perfect intro, considering the topic, because we're going to be examining Jimmy Dore's latest, or one of his latest videos from his stream yesterday, where he talked about breaking points, and RBN likes to pat ourselves on the back for being, along with Jimmy and others, being some of the first people to really drill down on the monkey business that's going on. And I'm going to try to clean up my language for the YouTube rules. So the monkey business that's going on over at Breaking Points. So let's just look at the graphic for today to start. I had to squeeze Jimmy in there, so he's obviously not part of Breaking Points. He's the opposing character in this art here. But you have Sagar from the Hudson Institute. You have Crystal Ball, who never seems to push back against the Sagar's Hudson Institute's talking points. We have covered their shaky finances to be considered an independent media. The bulk of their sources are corporate-owned sources. So what makes them different than corporate? The wrong one. So what makes them different than corporate media? You're just independently covering corporate media. What's the difference? I'll go back to the graphic, and Then we have Matt, I think his name is Matt Stoller, to the right of Crystal Ball. Matt Stoller is the one who famously tweeted last week, or a few days ago, but it was last week, or maybe it was earlier this week. We need to be polite to politicians, and it wasn't a parody. Wasn't parody. And then to Crystal's right, Sagar, again, Hudson Institute, he brings on somebody, I think his name is Marcus, the only black dude, but he's a neocon trained by the same Hudson Institute. And when he pops his face in, it's literally to do some of the worst trash covering ever. Then you have Ryan Grimm, who's shielding the progressive Democrat narrative to the death. Then on the far right, we have Jordan Sheraton, the white savior complex guy. And that's Breaking Points. That's independent media. Okay. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I've had this conversation with Nick before, but it feels like when Sagar and Crystal left Rising, they've shifted both of them to the right. Now he's on the right, but he considers himself a populist, but he has clearly shifted to the right, and she has clearly shifted to the right. She has swallowed her opinion or her supposed left opinions on several things when they do content. For some reason, it went to now Sagar literally talks the most during most of their videos now. And then they'll throw in the Starbucks, they'll throw in the Chris Smalls videos and sprinkle that in for her. So, let's listen to this video again. Let me see if I can get it around the same area. So I'll just go sort of around here. Actually, we don't need to hear this part. Let's get to the part when he shifts to Jimmy Dore. So let's skip there and let's listen.
Okay, so get the fuck out of my face. This would have worked if it was a $15 minimum wage. You guys don't understand anything until I explain it to you really, really goddamn slowly. Okay, the idea was to drum up support for a piece of legislation and exercise power. It was to say, hey, this is still one of our demands, and we are going to be a fucking thorn in your side until you do something about it. That was phase one. Then it was go on TV and talk about how criminal it was that all these people who had just lectured and lectured and lectured you about the pandemic and about how everybody's life is extremely valuable, and we have a responsibility as citizens of this country to make sure that everybody's medical needs are taken care of, and it's about all of us and playing our role, and all that World War II kind of patriotism that you can laden that with to make your fucking argument. Okay, so it's all flimsy, and it all comes down to really what it all comes down to, guys. And this is how the left will never win. And even it rubs off on me. It's Jimmy Dore is such an annoying fucking prick that anything that came from his mouth was never going to work. He's so fucking antagonistic and just for the most part downright unlikable that nobody wanted.
Need a break from that just for a moment. And I'm looking for another video, but that is amazing. But I'm looking for another video that's gonna kind of explain it, in my opinion. So let's continue to listen. But just note, I am looking for a video for that would pair well. I just thought of this video, thought of using it too. So that will pair well with what he's saying here. Let me see if this is it here. Wow, how many videos have I posted? But I'll look for it. But let me let it play. Let me let it play. All right.
To organize with him, and his name alone and the fact that he has nothing but vitriol, and he loves the fact that everybody hates him for the way that he presents himself besides his like most dedicated fucking followers. He loves to be an antagonist, and even when because Jimmy doesn't actually give a fuck if these things happen. So it's all about the antagonism. And that's why I think that Force the Vote was never able to take off. And that's why you see so many people who are just rabidly opposed to it, and they have no good reason to be. It's because they won't just come out and say, I fucking hate Jimmy, and that's why I won't support anything that's ever come out of his goddamn mouth.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a valid reason to be against Force the Vote, and I don't think that's what you're saying
Stupid
either.
as fuck to be opposed to it.
Yeah.
Gavin clearly saved Zach right there. He clearly saved Zach to say, hey, yes, we're all mad, but we're supposed to pretend like that's why we're not doing something. That's the position they're trying to represent here. But I do think it's a good video for me to kind of insert here. And let's go to Marx's Vivek. This is a video with Michael Brooks. Now, think about what Zach and Gavin were discussing. Think about what he just described. And you can hear in his voice, to him, it's a valid reason. And then Gavin had to come in and clean it up. Now, listen to this video. And let's see if we can make a correlation here.
Now, the liberalism that you talk about, Michael, when you say there's a lot of liberalism within the left today, I would not call it that. So the identitarian stuff that you talk about, the narrowness, that is not an ideological hangover of liberalism. That is a very, very active set of people pushing their material interests.
Right.
The left in the United States is fundamentally and overwhelmingly a middle class formation. It is not it's the first left globally, historically, that has no connection to the working class, to the poor.
Now, let me stop there. Let's go back to Gavin and Zach's video. You heard what he said. You heard what Vivek said there. The left in the United States is overwhelmingly a middle-class formation. Now, let's listen to his valid reason now from his point of view.
How the left will never win. And even it rubs off on me. It's Jimmy Dore is such an annoying fucking prick that anything that came from his mouth was never going to work.
Do you think anybody in Compton is going to let that stop them? Do you think anybody who needs health care is going to let that stop them? Do you? Or let's talk about Vivek's video where he's saying the left is an overwhelmingly middle-class formation. So we have unserious people who call themselves leftists who are getting called out for being milquetoast in trying to achieve what they claim we have these overlapping views, but you let a person stop you. Wait, because you have health care. So they're not stopping you. Oh, that's right. That's why you can have this position of privilege. So let's listen to the rest here, and we're gonna go back. No, actually, let's go back to Vivek's Michael, and that's Michael Brooks. Rest in peace, Michael Brooks. That's the other person in the video. So let's go back to this and let him finish what he says here about the left.
Globally, historically, that has no connection to the working class, to the poor at all. People complain that the left is white. Bullshit. That's a second. The left has those non-whites who are in the American left are all middle class too. It's disproportionately white, but it's all middle class, regardless of its color. In that setting, when you're
now he's going to go into what's important to these people in the middle class that's shouting that they're left, and they're all the main voices, these white babe, you can bring it in, I need some tea, these white left media figures. Yeah, oh, it's making me some tea. But anyway, let's listen again and understand when he's saying how, because it's overwhelmingly middle class, the things that matter the most or should matter the most is not at the forefront because it's middle class people that's running it. So let's listen.
You're only bringing in middle class people into your organization. A big chunk of them are going to say, we don't want to hear about poverty. We don't want to hear about the economy. What we want to know is, when we walk into a room, why are we not treated well? When we apply for the salaried positions at 6 figures that we think we have a right to, why do we get 5% less than the other?
Also, let me add to this list. When we get offended by a pot-smoking comedian in California, we're not going to participate in your Medicare for all. That can be inserted in this list that he's making right here. I'm sorry, people who are serious, but this is the lane we have. We have people in our lane who should not be here. Thank you, sweetheart. Oh, it's real hot. We have people in this lane with us, in the carpool, in the car, as if they're the same, and they're not. What the left has to identify and come to grips with is that we have reformists and we have revolutionary trying to come together, and strategy, or the lack thereof, or the milquetoast version of that strategy, the progressive strategy, becomes a problem. If we're saying tear down the Democratic Party and you're saying repair it, that's a problem that cannot be resolved. So stop acting like we're all allies. We agree on a couple of issues. That's it. You're in the wrong lane, sir, ma'am, person, human, whoever this applies to. You're in the wrong lane. You are in a lane that is labeled revolutionary, and you are a reformist, sir, ma'am, person. So the stuff that you should care about, do you think the people, the indigenous water protectors, do you think they go, oh, Jimmy Dore said something good about this shit, so I'm out? Do you think they do that? We are here in this lane with unserious people, and who think that their words make them serious, and they don't. It's clearly you're not using the word solidarity in the same way that we're using solidarity. It's clear that you're not using actually wanting to get something done the same way we are. Very clear. So let's continue, and I'm going to play this in full, and then we'll go back to the I keep saying Zach video. Oh, it's because he was the one talking. My bad. So let's listen to it in full to get the complete thought. It's about 2 minutes, 19 seconds.
Now, the liberalism that you talk about, Michael, when you say there's a lot of liberalism within the left today, I would not call it that. So the identitarian stuff that you talk about, the narrowness, that is not an ideological hangover of liberalism. That is a very, very active set of people pushing their material interests. Right. The left in the United States is fundamentally and overwhelmingly a middle class formation. It's the first left globally, historically, that has no connection to the working class.
Let's zero in on that. No connection to the working class. This is the reason why they can go, Jimmy Dore's involved, so I'm out. No connection. If you had a friend who you knew needed health care, I don't mean a random friend, I mean lots of friends because you're poor or in poverty who don't have health care and have ailments, do you think you're going to let that be your obstacle? We have unserious people in our lane. We have unserious people in our lane using our language, not willing to go that far.
To the poor at all. People complain that the left is white. Bullshit. That's a second. The left has those non-whites who are in the American left are all middle class too. It's disproportionately white, but it's all middle class, regardless of its color. In that setting, when you're only bringing in middle class people into your organization, a big chunk of them are going to say, we don't want to hear about poverty. We don't want to hear about the economy. What we want to know is, when we walk into a room, why are we not treated well? When we apply for the salaried positions at 6 figures that we think we have a right to, why do we get 5% less than the other guys? That's what the middle class on the left wants to hear about. It will dress it up in all sorts of historically powerful language and all that. But Adolf Reed has been saying this for a while, and it's only because he's in America that people think this is controversial. In the rest of the world, what Adolf says is just common sense, which is, this is a form of nationalist politics. And all nationalist politics has one or the other class character. Either it's a nationalism that's wrapped around the needs of the poor, or it's a nationalism that's wrapped around the needs of the aspiring, emerging elite within the dominant.
A movement wrapped around the needs of the aspiring elite. And what's up, Colin, friend of the show? This will be a fun stream. That's what I want it to be. It's a nationalism either wrapped in what poor people want, which is Medicare for all unserious people, or it's a nationalism wrapped up in your fucking feelings. Shit, I was supposed to not cut, but wrapped up in your feelings. We have unserious people in our lane. Who only talk about being on a revolutionary ride.
Dominated groups. Identity politics is the class instinct of black, brown, and Asian, yellow, whatever you want to call them, people, and the women. It's not an ideological.
What these white media figures, what white media, what middle class people should get, this is how you be an ally to working people. Fucking, I hate Jimmy Dore, that POS, but I'm going to the Medicare for All March. Jimmy Dore is a piece of whatever, but I support forced to vote. That's the ally we need. We don't need you unserious people here no more. We don't need you. You are completely unserious. No one should take you seriously whatsoever. Let's go back to the Vanguard video and finish out this introduction here. Because this is not the main video we're supposed to be even discussing today. So before I even saw this, somebody sent this to me. I was working on doing a reaction video to the Jimmy Dore video because it had a lot of stuff in it, and it had RBN, to be quite frankly. It's a segment that he features Shabby, and he features an interview that Nick and I did with Shama. So I was going to cover it today. And then this fell on my lap. And let's just listen to this here.
And I don't think that's a valid reason to be against.
Oh, let me go back a little bit. My bad, everybody.
For the way that he presents himself, besides.
So keep in mind what we just been talking about here. What I just been talking about, what Vivek just said in the interview with Michael Brooks. Is he here?
For the way that he presents himself, besides his like most. So it's all flimsy, and it all comes down to really what it all comes down to, guys. And this is how the left will never win. And even it rubs off on me. It's Jimmy Dore is such an annoying fucking prick that anything that came from his
that I'm gonna let people not have health care. Jimmy Dore is such an annoying prick. Fuck those poor people that need health care. And you think you're an ally. You think you're an ally. Ugh, I don't understand what has happened to our white left media people. What has happened here? I know what happened. I did a stream on it. The squad has pulled white left media and white progressives to the right. If you're supporting Ukraine right now, the squad and your dying support has caused you to latch yourself onto a people, a group that's moving right. If white left media was like, if I interpreted white left media the way this is happening now, there's no way I would have joined this shit. There's no way I would have been, oh, let me be a leftist. It feels like white left media is stuck in 2008. It feels like some of the things that would be saying would be okay then. As if we haven't had a pandemic, as if the homeless population hasn't gone up, as if the crisis problem hasn't gotten worse. There's no uptick in urgency whatsoever. Because urgency would mean you would go, I hate Jimmy Dore, but I'll be at that march. And I know they did. I'm not referring to them specifically. I'm talking about those who stopped, didn't go because he critiqued AOC. And I'm sure, I'm almost sure they were there and they participated. So I'm not talking about the Vanguard, even though they're on screen. Oh, that's some good tea. Wife hooking it up for me. So let's listen to the rest of this here.
Mouth was never going to work. He's so fucking antagonistic and just for the most part downright unlikable that nobody wanted to organize with him, and his name alone and the fact that he had
these people would have hated Malcolm X. Would have hated Malcolm X. He was very antagonistic. Some people say I'm antagonistic. I'm not sure what's happening with our white left media. I'm not sure. If it feels like they have decided the space that RBN and Jimmy Dore essentially, and Convo Couch and some others essentially occupy, that's too radical for us. So we have to attach ourselves to somebody else. This is what this feels like to me. The squad has clearly been exposed to this extent that they are still posting and people are calling them out. She put up that video with Alex Wagner, AOC, and we did a stream on it. Every single comment was bad, and it was several hundred comments. Every single quote tweet was bad. That's who our white left media has decided to attach themselves to. And it's a connection here. There's a connection here. Don't think there's not a reason why certain people are taking certain stances. don't think it's a coincidence that Vanguard has this particular stance. And there's more. I'm not going to play more, but there's more. I don't need to go into it. There's Crystal and Kyle. And Jimmy Dore alludes to it in the video we're going to cover too, but Ryan Grimm has a position, and you see him, what he's out doing. So what could Breaking Points really do? How would they even cover Force the Vote when they have the clown on their network? And has the Vanguard had Crystal and Kyle on? Do you think the Vanguard wants to have Crystal and Kyle on again, or Ryan Grimm on again? Do you think that? Do you think that shades the opinion that they decide to have here? Or they're just making a class play. Let me sip on this shit. Or they're just making a class play.
It's nothing but vitriol, and he loves the fact that everybody hates him for the way that he presents himself. Besides his like most dedicated fucking followers, he loves to be an antagonist. And even when because Jimmy doesn't actually give a fuck if these things happen. So
the question is, do other white left media give a fuck? Because if you want to give Jimmy Dore that label, and if that's what you want to say, he doesn't give a fuck. Then what do you classify Crystal and Kyle? Breaking Points. Civility politics serves who? We did a stream on this. Civility politics. I should have put it in the I Am the Revolution podcast series. And that's essentially the argument of the Vanguard. So let it play some more, because there is a couple, now that I remember, there's a couple of things I want to address.
So it's all about, the antagonism. And that's why I think that Force the Vote was never able to take off. And that's why you see so many people who are just rabidly opposed to it, and they have no good reason to be. It's because they won't just come out and say, I fucking hate Jimmy, and that's why I won't support anything that's ever come out of his goddamn mouth.
The thing is the solution to get rid of Jimmy, or for those people to grow up? What's the solution here? Get rid of a person who's vigorously publicly fighting and using his platform. Get rid of that guy, or just tell the children to grow up.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a valid reason to be against Force the Vote, and I don't think that's what you're saying
Stupid
either.
as fuck to be opposed to it.
Yeah. But I do agree that his unnecessarily antagonistic nature, not just towards the Congress people themselves, who I think absolutely deserve the vitriol, but more towards some of his actual allies.
This is the thing where people are just telling you they're your allies. Why do you say that? Why do you say that? You just telling somebody they're not any ally of ours whatsoever. And if your ally is dragging your feet on the battlefield, I'm going to say that again. If your ally is dragging their feet on the battlefield, you're supposed to do what? The battlefield where they can get you hurt too because they're dragging their feet? This is completely unserious. This is completely unserious to me.
Or people that would be his allies if he let them be. Unnecessary vitriol towards those people. And that's what
so this is what the Vanguard is saying. Because he just acknowledged it's okay to do it to the politicians. But for somehow the logic stops there. Why doesn't a logic apply to the media people who are propping up the politicians you say is okay to treat like that? Why shouldn't we attack those people, the Ryan Grimms, who are propping up the people you say is okay to attack? And if the people who you say are allies are propping up the people who you say is okay to attack, are they allies? Okay, RBN is here to say civility politics, that's out the door. I think people kind of get that from RBN. We ain't about that at all. If you're shielding for the ruling class through your so-called journalism like Ryan Grimm and David Sirota, you gets these hands. What the fuck do you think? We're here for the working class. We're not here to play nice. So if you want to team up with imperialists, the hands will come, sir.
What we're about to take a look at now. This caught my eye because this video is called Breaking Point's host caught lying.
It caught your eye because you're an ambulance chaser. That's why it caught your eye. That's when we get content from the Vanguard. Look out the door. If you hear an ambulance, the Vanguard will be there, sir. You're talk soup of the left. You're Wendy Williams of the left, sir. Completely unserious. Let's move on from this. Just go back. I don't need to watch. I watched it. I watched this, okay? Why are we playing Captain Sav-A-Breaking points? Why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? What is that thing about? The people who are funded like by billionaires, the people who have a trained Hudson Institute grad over there, we need to get these milquetoast people out the lane. These are unserious people. They are acting like they're serious and they're not. Completely unserious. So let me go to a couple of things here. I might have to come back to this because if I remember anything that I missed, I kind of go through my whole show thought process, and sometimes I do skip. I kind of just remember everything. I don't write it down, or sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. Because I did write down ambulance chaser, talk soup, and Wendy Williams. Let's now do a couple of announcements here. Then I'm going to go to this Jimmy video. The first thing I want to do is share with everybody. I know it's kind of a hard transition. Your emotions might still be up. I'm going to put your comments up. It's not completely gone. Here's a website. It's a soft launch. We want people to check it out. Report glitches. If you see any glitches when you go to the website, please let us know. I'll toss up our email, which we have a new email. So here is the website you can go to. I think revblacknetwork.com also works, but that's the longer one here. And here, web designer still working on it, but you see just about RBN, one of our bigger mantras, I guess you could say, strategize nationally and organize locally. Then it's pictures. That's Rome and Nick out when Tour for the Poor was in Missouri. some of our key pillars of beliefs, who we are. That's Rome right there, cutting hair for the unhoused. He had a haircutting event where he had cut lots of people hair. And then that's our latest video clip. And then our mission with his bench, and I love this bench. It says, "Fight the empire, destroy capitalism, rebuild with socialism." And I think that's the bench that the police broke in a subsequent picture that he got. You can also find out some RBN chapter information that was finally added yesterday. So if you want to go check that out, go check out the website if you like. And I think now I'll put up the email address. If you find any glitches, if you click on something and it's not working, because literally this is literally working on. We worked on it yesterday and we worked on it this past Monday, so there could be glitches. So if you see any, just email us. Some of you have already done that. We're also still looking for. We want to do merchandise, but we want to make sure we're getting, like, somebody unionized, somebody that's not a venture capitalist, like their background, the t-shirts and all that. So if you know somebody, we already got a couple of suggestions from Marco was one of them, and another one who does their own. We're still working with, but we want to work with as many people as can. So keep the suggestions coming. You can email us. This is our new email that we'll be using. So the Gmail account, you can stop using that email account. What other announcements we have here? We are getting close, everybody. This is where we were yesterday's stream, and we jumped quite a bit. Wow, we jumped quite a bit. Now, for those watching, I'm going to open it up for those that just became members so you can comment. There was a 2 or 3 day, you have to be a member before you can comment, but I'll change that for this stream so that you're able to comment, because it looks like we've gained at least 50 new people just in the stream. So here we are now, 27,956. The goal is 30,000. We were supposed to hit it before the end of last year, but we're still trying to reach that goal. Also, like the video. I checked about 10 minutes ago. We were at 269 likes, but we got over 500 people. Come on, let's push that to 500. Let's get 250 more people to hit that like button. 250 more people to hit that like button. And as promised, I'll open up the comments. I'll open up the chat restriction here. So anyone, as long as you've been a member for 1 minute, how about we do that? There we go. So I switched it from 5 days? 5 days to 1 minute. So all of you who are brand new, subscribe, who are watching, you are now able to start commenting. Let's see your comments. I'll put them up. Let's like the video. Let's get it to 500, 250 more likes. And now we're going to get into the Jimmy Dore. I'm not going to go through their video. I don't want to be commenting on their comments the whole time. So I just want to insert my own thoughts. And I just that intro was based on me seeing more of that video. So I don't want you to think it was just that, that 2 minutes that I played.
For
more
squashing the strike.
I'm sorry, I should have said more than that 2 minute section that I played. But here is the video. It's entitled "Breaking Point's Host Caught Lying to Protect." I guess I can read the whole thing. To protect the squad. And again, I was going to be covering this today because RBN is in it. He uses RBN as a reference. So, or, as media. So that's why I was going to cover it. And then the Vanguard dropped that. So that was just an added part. But let's look at some of your comments. And remember, we're pushing to 500. Let's look at some of your comments before I move to the next thing, because I know there's a ton of you that have a lot to say. In particular, how did Vanguard go from supporting direct action by being physically there and calling themselves communists to supporting every neoliberal failure and ghosting the entire outside game for access to breaking points? That is a pretty fire comment. I didn't know they were communists, but that is a good question and a good observation, I would say. Yes. You know, whatever your version of socialist is, we don't care. And we take criticism, and if we feel it's constructive, we do, but this is not. Like, socialists are not supposed to eat in a capitalist society. You're completely unfucking serious with that take. Completely unfucking serious. That's a take from a privileged person who believes that a socialist, for example, who needs to go to work in a capitalist system somehow is dirty or filthy. You're completely unserious. So, yeah. It's completely unserious. Left, anti-communism, and infantile disorder, Lenin. Same here, Robert Timpton. I'm trying. RBN and Vanguard could both stand to open a book. Right. I'm gonna be putting this guy because he's already been identified as this is the disruptor for the stream. And what the disruptors don't know, that we don't care. Once we call you out, we just ignore you and all just understand that you're a silly person here to disrupt, but we don't allow that. So that's the person for this stream is this person here, which is fine. We'll have a little fun with that person. So exactly. They try to sound smart just like 14-year-olds do. And it's funny. Let's look at some other ones. Here goes creative experiments. Vanguard used to have the "Don't Tread on Me" flag in the background all the time. Kind of sketch libertarianism to me. I don't know enough about all of that to probably even comment, so I won't. Yes, we're almost at 20K. Why doesn't it show when we are joined? When we are joined, maybe I'm. Oh, I get what you're saying. I don't know. I think you have to refresh it. Maybe if we're talking about the same thing, like if you click it and it doesn't show automatically, maybe you have to refresh it. We got to make peace and unity between Rome and Caleb Maupin. Then fellows are working to build this. It says these fellows are working to build the same thing. Okay. Oh, here goes Indie News. CJ is making people blood boil today. Maybe. I feel so bad about Graham. I really liked his content. Well, this could be just one bad take. Doesn't mean to stop looking at it. I'm not saying that. I liked it, CJ. Don't at me. All right. So I think that might be enough for today. Right now, because I do want to get to the video because I don't want to be here all Saturday. All right, so let's listen to Jimmy's take or Jimmy's breakdown here.
So what we're talking about today is Breaking Point's hosts that are lying again about forced to vote. Now, I'll show you this. Remember, Ilhan Omar tweeted this out, part of the squad. She said, yes, we can with a slim Dem majority in the next Congress. Anything can be possible. Turns out nothing was possible. Absolutely nothing. It will literally take 5 courageous progressive members to get concessions on progressive policies. There is literally not one courageous progressive in Congress. Literally isn't one.
You know, it's the difference between stand-ups and improv people. Like, that's why They didn't like your sort
That's right.
because these are improv people.
These are
very
improv-
different mentality.
Very
They're
different.
more yes and.
Yes. That's
Off
why
a
Stephen
cliff.
Colbert.
Yeah.
That's right. So look what they're doing here. So they took Ilhan Omar's advice and they got all these concessions for their vote for speaker. And the reason why you wanted to do a force the vote, a Medicare for all, the reason why you would do that is because sometimes it gets members on the record so people can't make excuses. Sometimes these votes create real political pressure that forces developments. And sometimes we vote for historical record.
Let me interject here because I think what the Republicans has done with their force to vote has opened the left eyes that our ask for Medicare for all vote was not even a lot. So now, if the opportunity presents itself and we try to get the squad to force it, or whoever's elected to force a vote, now we coming in with a lot more demands than a floor vote. Look at what the Freedom Caucus or Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert was able to extract, some of which is a cut to military spending. Someone on the right is cutting military spending, in the squad is voting for military spending. And white left media has attached themselves to that host. There are no progressives in Congress at all, Jimmy. Let's continue.
The future generations know that we did everything we could. So
force the vote. Hashtag force the vote.
Hashtag force the vote. They didn't do anything, right? And so now people are trying to rewrite history. And what they actually did was turn on the activists who wanted them to do something, force the vote, and get something for their vote. For what they did was they turned on us. And they said that we were committing violence against AOC. That's what they said. And that we don't know what we're doing, and that we're children and all kinds of names, right? So now they're rewriting history. Now, Crystal Ball was actually for force to vote very tepidly, but she was for it when we were doing it, right? So, because she knew it would be bad to come out against it. But now she is going to run interference for the squad. Watch this.
And then the last thing you have to say about this is, this is the identical situation that the squad was in last time around when Democrats had a very narrow majority in the House. There was pressure on them to do something with their numbers to get their own concessions, whether that was key committee positions or whether it was certain votes on the floor of the House. And they have completely taken a different tack. And I think we see now.
Oh, he's stopping it at the same place. I was about to stop it here. Okay.
So she's implying, she goes, they completely took a different tack. They didn't take any tack.
It shouldn't be called a squad because a squad does things
together.
Yeah, right.
They didn't.
Did they take a different tack? What is the different tack? Maybe we can ask Crystal, what was the other strategy they went with? So Crystal trying to say like there was multiple choice and they said, not A, force the vote. We're going to pick B. What is that? What is that they picked?
Didn't do anything. So she's pretending like they chose a different strategy to achieve progressive goals. That's what she's saying right there. I'll play it for you again.
Oh, well,
okay.
She just want to alienate the squad. They're our best hope.
so watch this. This is amazing. This is like Kyle Kalinske sleight of hand right here. Watch this.
And they have completely taken a different tack. And I think we see now with the level of concessions that this group has already been able to extract from McCarthy and the way that the squad has been completely sidelined in the Democratic Party, that was clearly the wrong approach.
Oh,
so she's now pretending that the squad has been sidelined in the Democratic Party, and they didn't see that coming. They didn't know that they would be sidelined by Nancy Pelosi. They didn't really know that. So she's, again, this is the second lie, right? So they didn't take a tack. They didn't have a strategy to get progressive goals met. They didn't do.
So in the Vanguard's video, I guess this is not a lie to them. This is really semantics. Because what Jimmy is illustrated and what he refers to as a lie, he's saying now you're softening your talking points on the subject because you're trying to protect the squad, by way of Ryan Grimm because he's the one who has access. And now that they have secured them on breaking points as the counterpoints, she has to kind of tread lightly to keep Ryan Grimm in the good graces to have access. So let's continue.
Freaking anything, and now she just made that lie. There's another one coming. Hang on.
They thought they could play an inside game. They thought that would be the way to ultimately pursue and achieve their policy objective.
Now that is.
They never thought that. See, so this is semantics. I mean, it's getting in the grounds for when I would start to begin to say this is a lie. You are getting into lie territory by giving the impression that somehow they did some other tack to get Medicare for all, and they have not. They simply have not. So it's not lying on the points of forced to vote. It's lying to pretend as if they did something else or had some other strategy.
It's 100,000% lie. That's what she looks like when she's lying. If you wanted to know what Crystal Ball looks like when she's lying, that's what she looks like. Because that is a fucking lie. They didn't have a strategy. They didn't do anything except turn on the activists, lie about what they were doing, and then roll over for the corporate machine and vote for everything Nancy Pelosi told them to. They didn't oppose her one bit.
Also, I keep bringing this up, but they also were heavens to Murgatroyd. What if Kevin McCarthy becomes speaker? I can't get over that. That was the big, because then Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, that's right. But that's not the, I don't know if the squad said that, but what she's saying, but lots of people defending them said that. You're right about that, Kurt. But what she's saying right here are three huge lies. So she could keep her access with the squad or her whatever party she wants to be invited to, or keep her donor money. I don't know what, I don't know. I can only speculate, but those are three big lies. Do you see how slippery she is when she lies? You wouldn't catch it the first time. She's like, oh, she's saying that the squad was wrong. That's what it looks like, right? Looks like she said, oh, the squad is wrong. She's saying they were wrong.
Yeah, right.
No, what she is lying about.
Was she a politician? I mean,
yes, she was. She wanted to be a politician. Like Jenks, she couldn't get elected. But what she is trying to make you think is that they just made a mistake. That they actually they had a different.
Isn't that the new approach? Wasn't that the last interview AOC did with Ryan Grimm? We did either a segment on it, and I think it's called "Did I Do That?" That one with AOC as Steve Urkel. Let's listen. But yeah, you can go check it out.
Idea on how to meet their different tack on how to meet their progressive goal. They never had one freaking they never had an idea on how to get there. They didn't have any intention of doing.
She what he's saying is she's doing to the story of forced to vote what Ryan Grimm did to the story of the strike breaking. Acting like they really had a reason to do that. So let's continue.
Any of that. And what that's called is a lie. That's a lie.
Jimmy, they had a strategy.
Okay, what was their strategy?
To get on the cover of Rolling Stone with Nancy Pelosi.
And they got on it. They got on it.
Got that
doing it.
Success.
We're going to don't bring
you
in
don't
Paul.
have time for your green dreams or whatever.
So I'll play that for you again. So now that you know what they are, watch how slippery she is and how she presents these.
And then the last thing you have to say about this is, No, this is the identical situation that the squad was in last time around when Democrats had a very narrow majority in the House. There was pressure on them to do something with their numbers to get their own concessions, whether that was key commit.
Yeah, it was called force to vote. I know you don't want to mention it.
If you're going to fight corporate media, why are you still being corporate?
Why are you still being corporate?
That's corporate bullshit.
Exactly. And here she goes again. Now here she's going to do run interference and lie to you about what the squad actually did. Here it comes.
Positions or whether it was certain votes on the floor of the House. And they have completely taken a different tack. And I think we see now with the level of concessions that this group has already been able to extract from McCarthy that and the way that the squad has been completely sidelined in the Democratic Party, that was clearly the wrong approach. They thought they could play an inside game. They thought that would be the way to ultimately
Yeah. This is pretty bait and switch. Like, this is pretty like sneaky and underhanded. What she's trying to present is, instead of doing force to vote, they did their other strategy and it didn't work. So she's presented as their other strategy didn't work. Instead of they didn't want to do force to vote and they didn't do force to vote and they didn't have any other strategy that they were working on to get the same goal. Yeah.
pursue and achieve their policy objectives.
They weren't playing any game. They weren't playing an outside game. They weren't playing an inside game. And you're lying to protect them right now. And you're getting something out of it. I don't know exactly what, but you are getting it. Maybe it's to keep Ryan Grimm, who's also a co-host on your show, his access to the squad, because those are the only people they give interviews to is to Ryan Grimm. So maybe she's lying so she can keep her access to the squad because they get all the interviews with the squad. Squad don't go anywhere else in progressive media except to Ryan Grimm because they know Ryan Grimm will.
Do you think that's why Ryan Grimm has the positions he has? Is you think that's why Ryan Grimm came on with Bad Faith with Brianna and Shama and said and tried to pull that nonsense that got Shama to say, "What the fuck?" Or she said something along those lines. What the actual fuck? Let's continue.
Will protect them and let them lie, like he did when he interviewed Pramila Jayapal, and she said that McCarthy could become speaker if they didn't force the vote, and he didn't push back on her. So that's my speculation as to why she's lying right now, and that is exactly what she's doing. And believe me, her audience knows it. They're onto them. People have sniffed out Rachel. What is her name? Crystal Ball. People have sniffed her out. And you go through the comments, a lot of their videos, which I do because I have that kind of time, and people are sniffing them out. And their subscriber count has trickled to it's down to a trickle, right? So they're stuck at around 840,000, and this is why. Because they're not real. They're not really going to push back. And this is mealy-mouthed bullshit. And she's protecting her access for Ryan Grimm to the squad. Let's see how she ends it.
And it just has not ultimately been the case. So in terms of political strategy and what works, it helps to have a few sort of asshole bomb throwers.
Yeah, so that's how she's going to talk about people who actually stand up to the establishment. She calls them assholes. That's her big idea. So now the people who are standing up, extracting concessions for their vote for speaker, she calls them assholes. So apparently, if the squad would have done that, they would have been asshole bomb throwers instead of principled progressives using their leverage.
Yeah, well, just the very concept of the squad is so followery, improv. It sounds like an improv group.
So now, her co-host, another host at Breaking Points, is Ryan Grimm, who's also the DC bureau chief for The Intercept, and for that billionaire-funded rag that can't tell the truth about Syria, can't tell.
Yeah, and they're a intelligence cutout, like a very likely intelligence cutout, funded by a tech oligarch. Yeah. So yeah, come on.
Tell the truth about Russiagate, can't tell the truth about Ukraine, can't tell the truth about force to vote. And here we are. He says progressive. So this is him trying to pretend that the progressives that the squad actually got something.
Yeah,
You remember when they got Pago? So without getting into the weeds, Pago is nothing, right? So he's saying, look, they won the rules change that would allow Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, and other big ticket agenda items to be exempted from Pago. So if they abided by the rules of Pago, you couldn't do any of those things, Medicare, Green New Deal. And he said, look, they got him to agree to that. The problem is they'd already agreed to that. That's why Ryan was lying. They had already agreed to that. This is from the Huffington Post. However, the Congressional Progressive Caucus effectively decided it was not worth tanking the entire set of rules governing the new Congress to jettison Pago, since they had received assurances from the Democratic leaders that the provision would always be waived to allow progressive bills to proceed to the House floor. So that was before the negotiation.
So you see so if you don't see what he's breaking down, he's building a case and an illustration how Ryan Grimm and in an initial video, there are here developing narratives and scenarios to give cover or excuse or reason to the squad. So this particular point, he's saying what Ryan Grimm, and he's trying to act like, look, Pago. He's trying to say Pago, look, they got this when it had already been done. Because he's trying to create a narrative that shields them. Look, this was a reason, like he did with the strike break. Look, workers from the union told us to do it this way. Creating a narrative to shield these people from obvious backlash from their votes.
Overforced the vote. That's where it stood. So they got nothing. Ryan Grimm knew that they got nothing, and he was lying to protect them, just like she's lying to protect. It's very subtle lies, right? You don't say, well, they did get a Pago exemption. They did do that. Yeah, but it's a lie. And he knows it's a lie because they know it's a lie, and they get together and think of what lies to fucking tell us.
What?
And so there it is. That's the lie. So now Brianna Joy Gray, Bernie Sanders' former press secretary, confronted him and asked him about his constant gaslighting.
Think about this is breaking points, people. The one that's trying to replace TYT, the one that's trying to be the next TYT, the left, Hudson Institute. Now, Sagar's not a left, granted, but he's populist. So Hudson Institute, white savior complex in Jordan Sheraton. Then you got this, I don't know, obviously CIA infiltration tactic deployer, Ryan Grimm. And if you didn't see our segment on infiltration tactics, just Google it and it should come up, or just go to Nick's Twitter page. He has it. Search Nick, Socialist MMA, and search CIA infiltration tactics, and it'll pop up. All right, so let's listen some more though.
For the squad, overforced the vote.
All I know is how they're behaving, and at the time, Ryan, the fact that you were driving that point home so hard and really advocating for, the idea that they had truly won something that was super relevant and consequential, seemed like it was, in the terms of the internet, carrying water for these squad members to.
So what she just.
So now I've never seen this interview. There's a lot of force of vote history that I'm not aware of. So I've never seen this interview with Brianna and Ryan. But think about, why is Ryan always being called out for covering for the squad? Like, it's multiple time over years. This is years ago. This interview here, not the Jimmy Dore, but the interview that he's watching.
just pointed out was what I just pointed out, that he was lying for them. She calls it carrying water for them. He was lying for them around force the vote and this issue. She's just pointing it out. And about Pago, she's saying you're pretending that they got a huge win and it's nothing. Okay.
Whom the rest of us perceived as having pretty obviously lost an important fight that they could.
So everybody else sees that the squad lost an important fight that they could have won, and but then the rest of it goes behind a paywall. So I don't know what bullshit he said back, but I do know that when he got Pramila Jayapal, the head of the Progressive Caucus, on his show, and she said that if they did force the vote, that McCarthy could become speaker, he didn't push back on it at all. He let her say it. And that's why they go to Ryan Grimm to give those interviews, because they know Ryan Grimm is a good boy who takes billionaire money and protects politicians. That's who Brian Grimm is. He's here to take simple morality issues and make them seem complicated. So that's what he's. He was for squashing the strike of the railroad workers. He took the side of the railroad against the workers. That's the guy who's now on breaking points with Crystal and Sagar. That's who they want to associate themselves with, and that's why Crystal just lied to her own audience about what the squad's role was in Force the Vote. Why? Because he gets access to them, and he's now a host on Breaking Points, and they're all in their toxic, corrupt little fucking cabal, and it's not working. By the way, their own fans see right through it. Anybody want to jump in?
It's like a mobile Jen Psaki, like
yes,
have remote Jen Psakis everywhere to just spew the PR.
That's what he is. Yeah. And so here's some of the lies he was trying to tell. Remember when he tried to go after Justin Jackson, who was a former football player here in Los Angeles, and he's for the Lions. He had a great week last week. And it's a tactic. He's talking about force the vote. You mean withholding your vote, using leverage to get something for your vote. He goes, it's a tactic. Sometimes it's smart, sometimes it's not. It depends on the circumstances. It's third down and you need 1 yard. Running might be the smart call. If it's third and 30, running isn't a smart call. It's sadly not. So that's him saying force the vote.
Just gumming up nonsense. This is a CIA tactic here.
But was dumb and a bad idea.
He's trying to do the thing of it wouldn't have passed. Like we wanted to threaten the people.
Right. And look at all the attention it would have got, Medicare for All. Mm-hmm. Right now, all week, everybody's talking about Matt Gaetz and the right wing holding out their speaker vote. And we would, if the progressive squad would have did this, we would have been talking about Medicare for All for a whole week during a deadly pandemic on every TV station. That would have been a huge win. And I'm going to show you why in a second. But Theory is lying. And then all of a sudden, Justin Jackson comes in and says, it's not 3rd and 30 either. It was 3rd and 30 when Bernie started running, and hardly anyone supported Medicare for All. It's actually 4th and 1 on the goal line, down 14 in the fourth quarter, and they're kicking a field goal. How about go for it and get us closer to taking the lead? That's a real football player using this nerd trying to use a football analogy, and this guy comes in and bodies him. That's a real football player from the NFL. He says they're worried, meaning the squad. They're worried if they go for it. Not only are they certain they won't make it, but they might be tackled in the backfield and turn it over on downs, leaving their movement worse off than it was to begin with. So he's saying that the Medicare for All movement would have been worse off had they fought for it. Hey, look at all those gains we made in the last 2 years since we didn't do.
Why is a journalist saying that and telling people that? Like, why are you advocating for that? A journalist. So bizarre. This guy, Ryan Grimm. I don't trust this guy whatsoever.
Do force the vote on Medicare for All. We would have lost all those. They didn't do shit.
It's like
so this is again, you couldn't tell a bigger lie than Ryan Grimm is telling right now. And that's because that's his job, is to lie to protect politicians. That's his job. And that's who Breaking Points wants as a co-host on their fucking show. Keep that in mind.
I was just about to say, keep that in mind. This is Breaking Points. Their whole sort of setup, the group they've assembled. I did a stream on this a long time ago. It has to be at least a year. When they introduced Jordan Sheraton, when they introduced Matt Stoller, when they introduced David Sirota, and they in the lever, and then Ryan Grimm. And then Marshall from, I think it's the Realignment podcast with Sagar.
Fine. And here he is. And Justin Jackson bodies him again. He says, I'm sorry, man. This is a horrible analogy and the type of thinking that gets coaches fired. You have to take risks, especially when the situation is advantageous. You're arguing for the field goal. The safe play actually increases your chances of losing the game and not vice versa.
Yeah.
So he's saying, he's making up this thing that nobody ever heard before, that if you fight for something, it sets it back.
Jimmy.
That's not a real thing. He made that up so he can find way. So he's taking a simple morality issue.
So he's been making up illogical logic this long. I didn't know that. I thought his first illogical logic was the strike breaking bullshit that he came up with.
And he's trying to make it complicated because he's paid by billionaires to gaslight progressives.
Trying to make it complicated, that is a CIA tactic.
And he's fucking
CIA infiltration tactic.
doing it on breaking points. Go ahead, Kurt.
You know how they, slavery was ended with no fighting? It was going to just end.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to have a bill that would end slavery, but we were afraid it's going to set slavery back to even talk about it.
Yeah.
So this was what he was doing yesterday on Twitter. I'm begging people.
Okay. This is new because I watched the first 10 minutes of it and the last part because that's where RBN is. So this part, like Nick's like to say, I'm going in blind the next maybe 3 minutes of this play. So I have not seen this. I did not know this was a current tweet. And this is from 2 days ago. January 5th. What did this guy say? Let's see.
People to stop pretending that Jimmy Dore invented the idea of using leverage in the year of our Lord 2021. So this is another great. This is right out of a CIA textbook. What he's doing there is changing the subject, trying to pretend like this was what we were talking about. Like people wanted to give Jimmy Dore credit for inventing leverage in politics.
He did this same thing in an interview with Shama and Bree, where they would ask a question, he would literally not answer and just begin talking about something else. I'm begging people to stop pretending that Jimmy Dore invented the idea of using leverage in the year of our Lord 2020. I guess this is an attempt at being funny. I don't know what this guy's doing. Why are you begging people? How about you as a journalist just shut the fuck up and go journalist somewhere? Why are you chiming in? Ryan? Like, shut up. You're chiming in to sway narratives in favor of the squad, sir, and everybody knows it.
Politics. I never even wanted credit for it. I gave credit to the DSA. They're the one who came up with the idea.
AOC was saying it.
AOC was the one who said we need to force a vote for Medicare for all on the House floor. And you know who else said it 30 years ago? Nancy Pelosi. So I didn't think of it. I never said I thought of it.
So the criticism was this is the rest of the tweet. The criticism was always about the demand for a vote on the House floor that would lose by 200 at least. That's all it's about. Didn't the Vanguard just say it's about Jimmy Dore? Didn't Anna on a video say it was about Jimmy Dore? Didn't Jank on a video say it's about Jimmy Dore? Didn't Sam on a video say it's about Jimmy Dore? I'm getting worried.
He's now changing the subject, trying to pretend that this is it.
Well, I am going to pretend that you did now.
He says the criticism was always about, the criticism, was always about, about what, a vote on the House, the floor, for get by at least, 200 at least. And, that was always. That's my Ryan Grimm. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
No, that's pretty good.
Ryan Grimm.
He says the criticism was always about the demand for a vote on the House floor. No, you again tried to muddy the water, saying, "Don't ask for that. Ask for this."
He comes in and just dropping CIA tactics. That's what Ryan Grimm does. He comes in just to muck up. No, here's the reason I'm bringing out the air. So let's just go to the next tweet because I want to go to the next tweet.
Knows that, and this is him trying to muddy the waters again. Brianna Joy Gray comes in and says that's not true. We surfaced large numbers of demands. The floor vote was just one of them. Hey, they could have picked anything. We picked Medicare for all because everybody on the left agreed with it, and half the Republican Party agrees with it now. So that's why we chose that. They could have chosen anything. They said they were working to get their own thing. They were negotiating behind the scenes, and they weren't. And then Ryan Grimm said they were. So she's just lying again. What I had to come in on that thread and tell him was, no, you explained that McCarthy, he came on my show, and he explained that McCarthy could not become speaker, and his boss, Cenk Uygur at the Young Turks, was lying when he said that McCarthy could. I thank you for clarifying that on my show. You then went on to gaslight about the squad voting for Pelosi without extracting concessions was the right move. It wasn't, and you knew it. He didn't say that on my show, but he said that after he got off my show on Twitter and everywhere else. And it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his job depends on not understanding it. And that is Ryan Grimm.
Exactly what Ryan Grimm is.
Here he is.
That's a great quote.
Trying to pretend.
This is
back
point.
when we were doing Forced to Vote that nobody would cover it.
Can't trust
if you did it. This is what he says.
How can we trust any reporting that Ryan Grimm does? It literally can't be trusted. It's not worth the paper. Anything that comes from him or the Intercept, for that matter, but specifically from him, literally is not worth anything. I'm going to need another person, sir. I'm going to need another source besides Ryan Grimm.
That's all fine, but we already know who supports it. So that's why you want to do a vote. Find out who supports it, who doesn't. We can primary, all that stuff. He says, and I can promise you it would get zero press coverage because the press doesn't cover bills that can't pass both chambers.
Really?
So we wouldn't have a speaker sworn in, and it'd be on the 5th, 10th vote, whatever, from Nancy Pelosi, and he's saying they wouldn't cover it. This person is not to be believed whatsoever. Here's the problem for the squad moving forward. They're going to lose less people than they've already lost, because once this scenario gets back to where they're in the House and they're in the majority, people are going to go, why don't y'all do what the Freedom Caucus did for a $15 minimum wage and Medicare for all? And they'll have a bunch of lists. Why don't y'all do that shit? And what are they going to do then? Because we're going to have the benefit of hindsight in history and seeing that the Freedom Caucus actually extracted concessions and that the media actually covered it for 4 days. And that it was literally the top story for 4 straight days. What are they going to say? That is a very curious question to know or to think. What could they say about this now?
At Orfila says, you're already fucking covering it. And look what's happening right now. Yeah. The entire corporate media structure has shut down and is covering this Forced to Vote wall to wall in real time. So that's Ryan Grimm. Again, it doesn't matter if people see that he's a moron and he doesn't know as much about politics as a pothead comedian, even though that's his only fucking skill. He doesn't care because he knows his billionaire money will continue to come in and his friends in the establishment will continue to protect him. All the people who work at The Intercept, the Ken Klippenstein, they're going to protect him. All his powerful politicians will protect him. All the people at TYT and people at MSNBC and CNN, they're all going to protect him. That's why he feels comfortable and confident enough, this Breaking Points host, to go and lie like that. Because that's what that is. You see what's happening. Or do you think he's just the dumbest guy you ever met in your life? He's either lying or he's dumber.
That is the options. Either he's the dumbest guy, and Shama kind of alluded to this in the interview with Bree when she's like, okay, I guess Ryan, the political analysis, political analyst, I guess he's the only one who thought that the Senate was going to pass 6 days. It's not believable. So either he's this stupid or he's lying. This is why I said he is literally for me, shredding his career, like he's a clown person to me now. No, I don't care to see any reporting from this person. It is not worth anything to me.
Dumber than me. He's dumber than Matt Orfalea, and me and Matt Orfalea are fucking C students.
Jimmy, the media point is really important, and I haven't heard you make it yet, but I think it's crucial. Imagine if right now, the media spectacle we're seeing around Kevin McCarthy, imagine even like a fraction of that media coverage about a fight over Medicare for all or any other progressive demand, because the idea that the media wouldn't cover a group of lawmakers withholding their vote for the House Speaker nominee, that's just been like resoundingly disproven by what we're seeing right now. So
they cover it, but then they would stop when it got to the vote. They're like, oh, this ain't gonna pass.
So progressives did the same thing. And I mean, it's a counterfactual. We don't know exactly how it would go, but certainly there'd be some media attention. And whether the issue was Medicare for all, as you advocated, or what one of the other demands, there'd be some attention on progressive issues. I think that's pretty fair to assume.
Pretty fair, yeah.
Well, that's why he's saying the whole goal is for that to not happen.
I like what this guy, so he's still trying to change the subject. He says, again, my objection was to the demand you were making, which I thought made no sense. Not the idea of making demands in general. No, you were there again trying to muddy the waters and make a simple morality issue seem complicated like you did. And this guy says, no, Mr. Grimm, you are a liar. It has been shown you are a repeated liar, and now you look like a kitten trying to cover your shit in a litter box. The pothead has skewered you again. It's not a good look. Here's guest and friend of the show, Sabby. She's going to do some violence on Ryan Grimm.
It seems like every time we try to critique them, you come in pretty quickly to defend them. You're the one that has access to them. We don't. And it just seems like you're kind of there to run cover for them. As long as people like you keep defending them, they're not going to be held accountable and they're not going to change. They can easily ignore or avoid us. But when the people who have access to them don't push back on them or say, no, you guys are not doing your job, that would be different, I think.
Yes. Yes. I have pushed them to do that.
And what did they say about that, Ryan? What about all the people who canvassed for AOC? What about all the people who phone banked for her? What about all the money that a lot of us donated to AOC and the rest of them? They took money from working class people, Ryan. I was on the ground. I saw them take money from people who really didn't have it to give. And for them to just sell us out like that, I'm going to be vocal about that because that's not right. Oftentimes what I have seen is yourself and some of your comrades kind of coming down on activists for those of us trying to organize on the outside. Force the vote, straight from the DSA handbook. That is something that they are supposed to be doing in reference to Medicare for all. Chose not to do it. Not even one of them came to the town hall. General strike. So like last year.
So she talks about our general strike here. And if people didn't know, Ryan Grimm actually says something about the general strike that wasn't good.
At RBN, we hosted a general strike summit. And you did it too, Ryan. You and some of your colleagues came in and you guys were like criticizing us before it even happened. And the whole point of that summit
was that the Medicare for all
that
march?
No.
Well, there was that too. I do feel like people like you guys can come and attack activists, but you don't want to attack the politicians who are supposed to be doing what we're out on the ground doing anyway.
I don't remember saying anything negative about the general strike. What did I do?
What did I do? I don't remember being an asshole to activists. I do it so often, I can't remember this specific time.
I do. You said that on the lines of something of it being foolish.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on. I hope I wasn't too
Listen
harsh.
to how he ends.
No, not at all. Not at all.
What?
She says, I hope I wasn't too hard on you. He goes, no.
Jesus.
It sounds like he in agony.
Wait, who made, I can't remember the name.
This is
of the person.
Turncoat Don made this.
That's right. Turncoat Don made where him as the inflatable airplane
Oh,
pilot.
yes.
As
Yeah,
my
he did that
favorite.
video too. Yeah.
So here is Shama Sawant. Now,
Now, this
if you
is
know
when
who
she
Shama
came on
Sawant
with,
is, she's a
Nick and
socialist
I.
who's gotten elected. She actually has power. She uses her leverage. She got people $15
makes some
minimum
great-
wage in Seattle.
great
and guess who
points.
she had to
Check out
fight to
the
get
stream.
that? The Democratic mayor and the Democratic city council. That's who she had to fight. That's her word, she told me. And she's the one who says the path for progressives inside the Democratic Party leads to a graveyard. And she's right. And this is what she has to say about Ryan Grimm.
But that's one part of the story, right? The other part of the story is all the Ryan Grimms of this world. We have to be very clear. They are cynical purveyors. They are snake oil salesmen who are very consciously peddling the Democratic Party support. And,
It's not a mistake. It's not a, did I do that? Like an Urkel, did I do that? It's not that. These are conscious efforts in an effort to move the narrative a particular way. And Shama beautifully explains that here. Let me rewind it a little bit.
we have to be very clear. They are cynical purveyors. They are snake oil salesmen who are very consciously peddling the Democratic Party support. And, I've seen on Twitter, some people are tweeting like, hey, are you a masochist? Why are you going towards Ryan Grimm? Why are you going to these podcasts if you know that you're not going to get any agreement on these things? But we have to be clear. He's not engaging in some self-sacrifice, and it is not about him. It's about people like him. People like him are determinedly peddling this line, even more so now, because the Democratic establishment recognizes that this is very clear as a betrayal in the eyes of hundreds of thousands, unconvinced, and perhaps even millions of workers. That is why they need their spokespersons everywhere peddling that line to the extent that they're able to push it forward. So they're not engaging in some honest debate in any way. They are push it forward clear as a betrayal in the eyes of
I'm gonna want to play this last point and then address it here.
Hundreds of thousands, unconvinced, and perhaps even millions of workers. That is why they need their spokespersons everywhere peddling that line to the extent that they're able to permanently peddling this line, even more so now, because the Democratic establishment recognizes that this is very clear as a betrayal in the eyes of.
You hear that point? The reason Ryan Grimm is really out doing these things so hard is because the establishment understands that this is such a betrayal to workers that workers are not, this is not just going to roll off their back like their normal neoliberal thing. This thing will be lasting. So we have to have these people out mucking up the waters, confusing people so that you stay connected in this narrative instead of organizing and getting real change.
Hundreds of thousands, unconvinced, and perhaps even millions of workers. That is why they need their spokespersons everywhere peddling that line to the extent that they're able to push it forward. So they're not engaging in some honest.
Think about who they have peddling the line: Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, Ryan Grimm, David Sirota, Marianne Williamson, even John Cusack. Peddling these lines about these terrible politicians who never deliver. And it has just been a terrible run for the squad in progressive politics, from Nina Turner losing twice to, the Iron Dome situation and the crying to voting for Hakeem Jeffries, which still is astonishing how they all kind of fell in line for Hakeem Jeffries. And then we're not even talking about the Ukraine aid and Israel, and then the breaking of the strike.
Debate in any way. They are very
these are devastating blows that are in a very short amount of time for the squad. Devastating blows that, to me, I'm not sure they're going to recover. Not completely.
Doggedly pushing their line, because that allows the AOCs and the Ilhan Omars and the Pramila Jayapals to then, be behind the scenes so they don't have to dirty their hands. They have the Ryan Grimms and whoever else to be the punching bag for them. But in reality, there is nothing genuine or honest about it. And their job, the job of these kinds of so-called analysts who appear on all these shows and write all these articles, their job is to obscure the reality as much as they can, even in the face of this spectacular.
Their job is to obscure the truth. CIA tactic infiltration, CIA infiltration tactics. Just terrible, in my opinion. Oh, this is pretty dope. Let me see. All right, so I gotta show you this because I'm gonna take a quick intermission here on this. I gotta show you this right here. It's pretty funny. Aaron just made this. So she's trying to come up with the RBN Live logo. There goes JB. She coming in with an RBN Live logo, and this is one of the ones that she created. She just sent this to me. So JB, I don't even think you even saw this one she just made. I told her to see if she can find an NWA one and make one of us, and that's the 5 of us RBN Live. That's the 5 of us as NWA.
Oh man,
that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. So, and I think there's another one, but let me take this down so you can say what's up to JB. What's up, JB? How you doing, sir?
Man, I've been listening the entire time, and I just look, I came in here. No. Look, there was some very valid points that you made, and the thing I want people to realize is the part about forced to vote that a lot of people are misrepresenting, and I say that being kind. The part that they're misrepresenting is saying, oh, well, even if you did get a floor vote, it's going to fail. That's the point. Okay, I'll put it this way. CJ, let's say I'm talking to a gentleman, and let's say that gentleman's name is Phil, right? Let's say Phil, I'm talking to Phil. And I go to Phil and I say, so Phil, how many years have you been beating your wife? Think about it. If I asked him that, then people would go, if Phil goes, I don't beat my wife, then people will go, well, Phil's denying the fact that he beat his wife. And if Phil admits to it, then he just admitted to, I'm beating my wife, right? And the thing is that's a setup. Forced to vote is a setup for the politicians to do what we know they will do. We know a snake is going to be a snake. The problem is that we want everybody else to know the snake is a snake. Yeah. And so that's what it is, so that it gets it on the minds of people so that they go, oh, snap, we got to primary these people out so that we can put people in who will force a floor vote or force a true vote on Medicare for all. Mind you, when the women's suffrage movement was happening, they voted on allowing women to vote, and guess what? It got turned down. It got voted down. But then the next time, and guess what? It got in. You lose 100% of the shots you never take. And this is the problem. They keep discouraging people from taking the shot. And that's the problem. They go, well, no, you shouldn't take the shot. And it's like, well, wait a minute. How we know we're not going to win if we don't take the shot? And so it's just like what Justin Jackson was saying earlier, is about that risk. And so the problem is that a lot of times people are taking this and trying to pin it to Jimmy Dore, saying it's a bad idea by virtue of it being Jimmy Dore spearheading it. But really, it's not, because number one, who cares who said the tactic? The tactic is the good thing. And I don't care if Donald Trump said it. If it's a good tactic, it's a good tactic, right? And then on top of it, is now taking people into their mind about their hatred of this person and going, oh man, when this person is for it, then I'm not going to be for it. It's like, so are you guys going to be against Medicare for all now because Jimmy Dore is for Medicare for all? Yeah. Are you guys going to be against defunding the police because Jimmy Dore is now starting to flirt with defunding the police? Is that what it's going to be about? Is it going to be about the actual policy and the actual tactic, or are you tying it to a personality? So that's the problem that we're seeing a lot of. And that's the disingenuousness that we are seeing from many of who I like to call the legacy left. They do not want this to be the defining moment, because that means then they lose their access to the people whom they could get on their shows. Versus if
who
we
can
were
make them where they are. Like, these are big name. This would be like us getting, Kevin Hart, like a big name in that world. You know what I'm saying? So that is absolutely a great point. Go ahead, JB.
No, yeah. And so the problem is like, are you doing this for access, or are you doing this to push the actual right agenda? It's like, what is it? What are you really doing this for? And so a lot of times you get a lot of people who will sit there and they'll hand wring about, oh, well, we can't do this because we'll lose. And it's like, we already lost, bro. Like, we literally have a raging pandemic and we don't have universal health care. All of you lost. We all did. So if we have nothing to lose and we have everything to gain, why not do it, boo? But the problem is that you always get that person who goes, well, if you guys do it, you're going to fail. If you're already, look, I'll put it this way. Here's my phone. If I put it on the floor, can it drop any further than what it's already dropped? It can't drop any further.
Best analogies. You always have the best analogies.
Yeah, but here's the thing. People just don't think about it this way. And also, another thing. The people who have no or very little sense of urgency are the ones that cast the most doubt. The ones who have something to lose, if we actually try for this, are the ones that cast the most doubt. Those of us who absolutely have nothing to lose, people like working people like yourself, people who are poor people like myself, we don't have much to lose because we've already lost our entire lives. So this comes to the point where you have a diametrically opposed group. You have the people who are of the upper echelons economically versus those of us of the working and poor class. And we're saying, take the shot. And they're going, no, we can't take the shot, even though we're already losing. That's like you're in the fourth quarter of the game and you're about to take that shot, but then your teammates go, no, don't take the shot. Even though the score is they got 96 points and you're at 60 or you're at 30. It's like we're at 30 points. They're at 90 points. Why in the hell are we just pulling our punches? And that's the problem.
This is the very reason, JB, people say the most marginalized people should be the main voices, because they're the people who are getting it the worst are willing to do the most because they have the most to risk. They have the most to gain. And that is something like, this is a contradiction that may not be resolvable. This is why I say we may need to saying that these people are our allies. It's because we're really talking about reformists and revolutionists. And if you are a person, JB, who said, I want to fix this car, and then I'm on a person saying, I want to tear that car apart, we can't ally to do that. Like we can't ally to do that. So this could be a reckoning that we are really just talking about two people who right now are occupying the same lane. They don't belong in the same lane. Go ahead, JB.
Well, even George Jackson talked about the dangers of reformism. And reformism, all it does is that it makes fascism a little bit more palatable. That's basically all it does. And so, or you're keeping it soft instead of making a hardline stance, and then you still can pierce the armor of those of us who are on the left. And the thing is that we cannot have that, because every single time somebody softens up to these people who are the true extremists, who are giving allowance for that Iron Dome, giving allowance for that police funding, giving allowance for us not having a nationalized healthcare system, giving allowance for them to go up against the rail workers. Every single time you give them an inch, they will take a mile, and then they will destroy you. And the problem is that you have too many people that are giving too many inches. And when you give too many inches, you get screwed. And that was another analogy, but I couldn't say it the way it's I wanted to. So
great.
So,
KB, go ahead.
So that's the thing. And we have to be careful of all this reformist. That, because it's just like, when does tolerance go too far? Are you willing to tolerate Nazis? And it's like, well, we need to be more tolerant. It's like, when does that have to have a limit when it comes to getting rid or wanting the ceasing of existing of different peoples of different groups? When does it come to that? And the thing is that there's too much allowance for the austerity. There's too much allowance for wars and defense, but it's not really defense. There's too much allowance for these certain types of ideas that come from the far right, and then who ends up hurting? It ends up hurting us. So I don't want to overtake your stream, but that's my thing. I was just like, yeah, man, Shama is correct on this. You can't keep this up, because the thing is that every single time they make decisions like this, or lack thereof, we end up getting shafted.
That is such a great point. Let's see if he says anything else. There's less than 2 minutes, or about 2 minutes left. Let's see if he says anything else here. I don't think I listened to this far. Let's see.
Betrayal.
So what Ryan Grimm's job is, what she just told you what his job is to distract you. It's to let me play it again.
As much as they can, to obscure the reality as much as
obscure the reality of what's going on, to obscure the reality of forced to vote, to obscure the reality of the betrayal by the squad, to obscure the reality of what happened when the Democratic Party squashed a strike, were strike breakers, and the squad went along with it. He was there to obscure that reality, just like he's there to obscure the reality right now of what's happening with the Republican, the right wing, extracting concessions for their vote for speaker. That's what Ryan Grimm's job is there. Not to give you, he's not there to report the facts to you. He's not there to inform you. Ryan Grimm is there to obscure the facts of what's really going on, to protect politicians. And he's a co-host at Breaking Points. And if you want to get your news from fucking Breaking Points and a piece of shit like that, have at it. Because
Yeah, I can stop the video there, because that is so on point, and that is what RBN, I feel like we've been saying that along with Jimmy for a while. And like I don't even have a desire to, because when we had Ryan Grimm on before, we're gonna bring you back on. Like, I literally, like, once I crossed that threshold, that now, like, I don't think you're just gullible and making bad decisions for your class. Like, now I feel like it's intentional, that you are intentionally trying to throw this off in hopes of making the narrative better for AOC and the squad and progressives, and keeping that going. So here's the other, you already saw this one, but this is the other one, everybody, that I just wanted to show before we left. And it's Aaron that's doing these great graphics for us. So shout out to Aaron. But yeah, so I covered everything. That was the full video. I'm not gonna get to the other, because we're already closing in on 2 hours. There was a couple of other stories. Now, if you want to stay on, JB, I mean, that's I don't stop you from staying on, but
no, I just want. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I'm gonna be getting going, not immediately, but I don't think I have time to do, because the latest Twitter files, when they're talking about Russiagate, that's gonna take a while, because that is very, very important information. And then the NATO escalation of war, I'll probably do that with Nick on Monday. So those two other stories we'll just push to Monday. JB, tell us about your show tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to be talking about a couple of stories. I'm going to be talking about how the house turned into a schoolyard at 3:00.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be talking about that. That's going to be a bit of a short story, but it's going to be fun. I might even bring popcorn to talk about that one, because that was just too damn good. I was just like, oh, snap. I'm like, are some hands going to be thrown instead of votes in this place? So we're going to be talking about that. And then also I'll be talking about a story about a young man that was murdered in Columbus, Ohio, back in October. And so his name is Sensei Reed. I'll be talking about the story regarding him. And this really smells of another Trayvon Martin type of situation. And so I'm going to be discussing that tomorrow. I recommend that anybody from RBN can join, but I recommend that you don't, because this is going to be a hard topic.
Because I'm probably the one to trigger like death and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are ones like triggering. I can't.
Yeah, so I wouldn't even watch tomorrow, because it's going to be hard to watch. But it's going to be a very interesting story, because we have to keep these things in the forefront so that people maintain their outrage. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern on my show here on RBN on the JB Show.
Absolutely. And then let's just do a couple announcements. Let's go over the website here. Since we're all buddies, we're all in the same community. Again, here is the RBN website. Check it out. Right now, we just landed on the RBN chapter segment. So if you want to get information about upcoming RBN chapters, it's not a lot of information up yet, because we still haven't decided. I think we're meeting tomorrow, but check out the website. You can see if you click on outreach, you see it talks about the library Rome is working on Tour for the Poor. You can check out some of the pictures. Oops, I clicked on it. I shouldn't have clicked on it. But some of the pictures from Tour for the Poor. And then we also have pictures down here, Community Mutual Aid. You can see I think this one is Sabby at the Julian Assange event. So RBN is trying to put it together for everybody. Here is JB's meet the members. You can see JB's profile right there and all his links. I think you got the most links up. Yeah, you got the most links up. You got everything.
Okay.
So yeah, you can get any you can connect to JB, you can connect to all of us. We all have that, even on mine. I have a couple, but I don't have as many as you links, but you can check this out. And for any of us, we'll be adding some Tour for the Poor stuff in here. We'll be adding some merchandise once we get the right people that we can work with. So please go and check out the website. Email us if you see any glitches, anything that is wrong. Here is our new email. So you can scrap the Gmail. This is our new email. You can start contacting us on. And on your way out, last time I checked, we were something like at 660 likes. On your way out, we got up to 900 and some odd people. Let's get those likes up to at least 750, 800. Let's get those likes up to each at least 750, 800. JB, I'm gonna end today with, let's see. I like this video so much from Michael Brooks, and it's relevant to today's story so much. So I think I'm gonna end here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JB. You feel like you were gonna say something. Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering if we can get to some of these super chats, and there's also a tip on rock before we go.
Yes. Yes, we're gonna do. Let's start with the Rockfin and everything, and then I actually have some comments after we do the super chat and Rockfin. So let's do the Rockfin.
All right, let me share my screen really quick. Oh wait, you're already sharing screen.
Yeah. Oh, let me stop. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share my screen really quick just so we can go to the Rockfin chat. Thank you, Dave Burt. Gave us a couple bucks on Rockfin. He said, thanks, RBN. Thank you so very much. There's also a few other comments on here as well. People saying, giving their thoughts, as you can see. So they're talking about Matt Stoller. And Dave Burt also says, amazing to see the people that used to call themselves progressive fighting reformers, people-centered, DSA, Link, or other strong progressives have completely lost their souls, their spirit, and their spine. So that was a really good point. And I'm not going to read that.
Don't do too crazy. Don't do that crazy one.
So this one's about the jab. So I got to be very careful about talking about that. But yeah, so I just thanks to everybody who have been giving comments on Rockfin. So, appreciate it. And to get to the super chats.
I think it's Rome. Roman. I'm not sure who Roman is, but Rome is the name of our guy. Is Rome, not Rome.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So one of the, I think, did you already read this one from Mosaic?
I put it up, but I didn't read it. But we can read it. You're right, CJ. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you want to read it, that's fine.
No. I think you had the better voice for reading the super chat. Sir, go ahead.
Okay, it says, you're right, CJ. It's CIA, not Dem 100%. Obvious now.
Oh shit. I clicked that with my thing. Go ahead, put that back up. Put that back up.
No. I'm already done with it. But thank you so much, it's Mosaic, for the super chat, as well as to Eccentricast.
Eccentricast. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Eccentricast. Thank you. Says, is there a way we can set up a mobile dentistry for the poor, homeless, and drug addicts? Oral health is important for the health of the heart. That's also very true.
I've been to one. I've been to a mobile dentistry when I didn't have dental insurance several years ago. It was like at a city college where people could show up. They do them, here and there, where some dentists will volunteer. It's hard to find, but yeah, they do have some places like that, and that would be something I would be down to have, like mobile dentistry. That is an overlooked thing in poor community, because it's just it's like it comes it's quick to be X because it's something that's not sustainable for life, I guess.
Absolutely. And your oral health is directly tied to all the other aspects of your health. So hopefully, I can bring this up to Rome, because Rome was talking about doing a clinic. This could also be another option for people in order to, go basically around the private insurance as well. So thank you so much for that. Keeper of the Tracking, thank you so much for the super sticker. JM, also thank you for the thumbs up and super sticker as well. And then CEB Applejack says, salute to RBN, motivated a bunch of friends and I to help the poor, raising $12,000 for Christmas and $20,000 for New Year's in Akron and Ashtabula, Ohio. Love y'all. Wow.
That's amazing right there. That's amazing.
CJ, you're cutting in and out.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. No. I think it's just a connection. It might have my connection. Who knows? But that's awesome, bro. Man, CEB Apple, thank you so much for letting us know that. That actually really lets us know that we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. I don't. Is there? I don't think I'm still searching, but I don't see any other super chats.
I don't.
So I can
I
toss up a
think
couple comments if you see any comments. You can toss those up though.
Sure.
Casey says so for the floor flames and also RBN. So thank you for that support there.
Waddy says you work with people when it makes sense and you don't when it doesn't.
Right.
Whether it's Jimmy or anybody else. Thank you so very much.
That is the point. Any other comments? Let's see. I'm still looking through everybody. Man, it feels like every day have another. Man, feels like every day you say another one of us is murdered. I think they were referring to what you're going to be covering tomorrow. How yeah, and that is it. That's absolutely what's happening. I mean, they're killing like 3.5 people a day, and that's another story we have to cover. It's a couple of new stories out on Common Dream and on the Socialist website where they're talking about 2022 was on record the most deadliest as far as police killing people, like it broke records. So we'll cover that. Hopefully we're able to squeeze that in on Monday. But anything else, JB, before we head out here? What's your plans today? You gonna cook or you gonna what are you doing? Because I know you like to cook.
Waddy says if you sign up to Substack, you can get access to RBN Discord. It is something akin to what you propose.
Yeah, let me throw that up here. Go ahead if you're going to say something. I'll just throw up the Substack. Here's the Substack. So join our Substack if you want notifications of surprise streams like this. We'll be sending out a notification for JB stream. I'll probably send that out right when we get off here. We're going to be uploading some clips tomorrow, so we're going to be sending out links to that. All of these you can watch directly in your email, unless you want to go live and so you can comment in the live chat. And then again, this is where we were when I checked in the middle of the stream. And we actually have gained people. Oh wow. We have hit 28,000. We have hit 28,000.
Oh, I like it like that. Hey, baby.
So we have 28,000. And thank you for everybody who has shared. Thank you for everybody who has subscribed. This is great. Like this means a lot. So thank you so very much. And if you are a subscriber, you have been a past subscriber, make sure you check because they will unsubscribe you without hesitation, and it's very sneaky. So I think that is it. I'm ready to put up the outro video. It's going to be Michael Brooks, RIP, and Vivek talking about the left and how it's overwhelmingly middle class, and it kind of speaks into what we talked about today, how there can just be like, oh, I don't care about Medicare for all right now because Jimmy Dore, and it speaks to how this is because this is a ramification of the left being middle class and not needing Medicare for all. So let's listen as it takes us out, and remember tomorrow JB show is 1 p.m. Eastern. Is it 1 p.m. Eastern?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's our next live stream. So our next live stream will be tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, January 8th. January 8th. Make sure you check it out as we take you out with Vivek and Michael Brooks. Rest in peace, Michael Brooks.
Now, the liberalism that you talk about, Michael, when you say there's a lot of liberalism within the left today, I would not call it that. So the identitarian stuff that you talk about, the narrowness, that is not an ideological hangover of liberalism. That is a very, very active set of people pushing their material interests. Right. The left in the United States is fundamentally and overwhelmingly a middle class formation. It is not it's the first left globally, historically, that has no connection to the working class, to the poor at all. People complain that the left is white. Bullshit. That's a second. The left has those non-whites who are in the American left are all middle class too. is disproportionately white, but it's all middle class, regardless of its color. In that setting, when you're only bringing in middle class people into your organization, a big chunk of them are going to say, we don't want to hear about poverty. We don't want to hear about the economy. What we want to know is, when we walk into a room, why are we not treated well? When we apply for the salaried positions at 6 figures that we think we have a right to, why do we get 5% less than the other guys? That's what the middle class on the left wants to hear about. It will dress it up in all sorts of historically powerful language and all that. But Adolf Reed has been saying this for a while, and it's only because he's in America that people think this is controversial. In the rest of the world, what Adolf says is just common sense, which is, this is a form of nationalist politics. And all nationalist politics has one or the other class character. Either it's a nationalism that's wrapped around the needs of the poor, or it's a nationalism that's wrapped around the needs of the aspiring, emerging elite within the dominated groups. Identity politics is the class instinct of Black, brown, and Asian, yellow, whatever you want to call them, people, and the women. It's not an ideological hangover. It is a very committed and clear set of material interests. And as long as the left remains in the middle class, it will never get out of it.